Welcome back to HTM Insider. I'm Sherelle of Multi Medical Systems, and we provide you this podcast and with just joy in our hearts that we're bringing new information and exciting topics to the HTM industry. And today, I promise you it's exciting and it's intriguing to me. It's fascinating. And I would love to introduce you to my friend Matt from NVRT Labs. I mean, we're talking VR, AI, a new way of learning. I don't know if you got a chance to check it out before, but I'm promising you that this is going to be something that you're going to want to see at the next conference. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Matt. And Matt, can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Sheril. So I'm Matt Bassuk. I am the CEO and founder of NVRT Labs. NVRT Labs is an XR development company, XR AI software development company. We're based out of San Antonio, Texas, and our primary focus is on providing training and real-time tools for technicians in HTM. And so we actually started in 2022. We're still a new company. We came out of the College of Biomedical Equipment Technology. So I was formerly the director of learning technologies for them. Around 2022, the idea was, hey, how do we get a little bit more hands-on training into an online training program? And so they said, Matt, you're the technical guy. Go figure out how to do virtual reality. And so here we are a couple years later, and that's exactly what we're doing is we're applying virtual reality, extended realities to technicians in both training and on the doing side of things.
Yeah. So I'll tell you my quick funny story. My son-in-laws, they have the VRs and games, and I'm not very good. There was this one you had to walk a plank, and then you're supposed to just jump off the plank. I could not make myself jump off it, even though I knew I was standing on the ground. That's how real it felt. So I know I've seen some of your demos, and I see how real they look, and I watch people actually picking things up. So I really want to know more about it and how people can find more information about your company and how they can use you as a resource. But let's talk about what's new and exciting right now in
I think,
ARV.
yeah, I think really we're at an interesting point in the landscape of XR adoption in some of the new hardware that's coming out, and so we're really excited to start, adding more things to our portfolio and to our content offerings, including mixed reality experiences, multiplayer experiences. So up until this point, what we've had is a independent learning platform where you put on the headset, you go through a specific module, whether it be a PM procedure on a defibrillator or on an IV pump. You're learning how to do certain technical procedures. What we're able to do now with some of the hardware that's coming out and some of the new APIs that are being released from a development standpoint is we're now able to have multiple people in the same experience. They could be co-located in the same room. They could be, I could be in Texas, you could be in New York City, and we could both be looking and working on the same device. And so really cool stuff coming out from that end. And then the future is looking pretty exciting as well with some of the new technologies. So I don't know if you saw, but just last month, Meta announced their new Project Orion. They're actually AR glasses, so fully
Oh yeah, I
transparent
did see that.
glasses.
Yeah.
That's going to change the game, I think. A lot of people are saying, Meta just had their iPhone moment, and there's still some skeptics out there, but I really think that that's going to uh, bring this technology to the mainstream, and it's going to become more ubiquitous, and wherever it's useful, I think you're going to start seeing it a lot more.
So, okay, I'm not a biomed. I don't play one on TV, but I support the industry. Tell me what XR is and tell me what API is so the audience and myself can understand.
Yes. So XR, when I say XR, I mean extended realities, and it's sort of a catch-all. It's just like a catch-all phrase for anything that's virtual reality or augmented reality or mixed reality. And augmented and mixed reality, those two things are kind of conflating now, anyways, from a terminology standpoint. But XR just being the catch-all, like anything that you're using AR, VR, mixed reality, all of it. Um, API just being an interface for interoperability between two different platforms. And so I say API, specifically what I was referring to there was like Meta is opening up their pass through API on their headsets, which means now as a development community, we have the ability to overlay onto the real world using that development API to gain access to the camera on the devices. So look for things like remote technician assistance applications, which is something that we're working on. One technician could have a headset on, another technician could be, on Microsoft Teams or on Google Meet and walking them through a procedure remotely, hands free. And so there's really cool stuff that it allows us to do.
Wow, that just gives me a whole my head spinning about right to repair, right? I
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it applies here as well, and I think that's honestly that's the reason why we exist is because there's a need in the industry, right? So there's so many skills that are leaving the industry. There's so many older technicians that are they're retiring. Every time I go out and I do a speaking engagement or I'm doing demos at one of the events, I like to ask the audience, okay, how many of you are ready to retire in the next 5 years? And honestly, a lot of them are. It's half the room raises their hand. So
yeah, the
what are we
attrition
going to do
rate
about that?
exactly the attrition rate, and just to replace that talent, you cannot replace that talent and that skill level of 20, 30, 40 years with someone who just came out of school. It's difficult, right?
There's a skills gap, and so we have to do better about not just replacing the FTE, but replacing the skills that are leaving as well. And so that's we feel like we're one tool in the toolbox to be able to do that, but we have to be able to build things from a training standpoint that are scalable, that are remote, that they have an opportunity to get to a lot of people quickly, because that's what we need right now. For every four technicians that's leaving the industry, we're only replacing them with three, and our industry is still growing. So we've got a big task in front of us to go fill the skills gap.
And I mean, technology is changing quickly,
And hopefully to our advantage, right?
right?
Hopefully,
Yeah.
that the new advancements in technology allows us to go after those skills gaps and allows us to be creative about the way that we apply technology to get better faster and more reach for technicians.
So let me ask you this: so is the technology being received um, in the industry, specifically in the hospital, with the system managers, managers at the facilities, the direct impact that you're having? And are they saying, I like it, I'm scared of it, I don't think it's real? What's your feedback on that?
Well, so I do think that we're still in the infancy of adoption. And I think if you look at the bell curve of adoption for any new technology, it goes through the same cycles. You've got your early adopters, you've got your mid early adopters, then you got your late adopters, and then you got your really late adopters, right? And honestly, that typically over is very mirrored by generation, like your generational assignment. So, your younger millennial Gen Z, like they're going to be quicker to adopt newer technology. Some of the older, boomers, Gen X, they might be a little bit behind that, and rightfully so. I mean, we
Well, yeah, I'm one of those. I mean, I try to adapt and adopt everything that comes my way, but it has happened so fast. You have to think. Okay, I'm almost 57, but I remember the first microwave. I remember the first handheld blow dryer,
right.
right? And I remember getting my first cell phone and carrying it around with a bag, a handle. We still have it, so we could show our grandkids someday. But we carried, I mean, that big old. You think about how technology has evolved in just my lifetime. It's crazy, right? And it
And
happens so fast.
so fast, and you don't look 57, by the way.
Oh,
Um,
thanks. That's a point. Point for Matt.
um, well, I think you know to that point with the how fast it's evolving and where we're at in adoption. I think you kind of have to go back and look at what really drives adoption, and you talked about a microwave, you talked about a handheld blow dryer. Like the main thing that drives adoption for any technology is going to be utility. It has to be useful, and so that's really what we like to focus on is how do we make this technology something that doesn't sit on a shelf, that's not just a gimmick or a cool fancy toy, but rather something that's going to actually move the needle on doing the job and making it effective. And so to that point, I mean, yeah, you look at like the iPhone back in 2007 when it first came out. There was a lot of skeptics about it. It doesn't have a keyboard. It's how are we going to send my emails if it does? And there's a famous video of Steve Ballmer from Microsoft who was kind of laughing at the whole thing. He was like, "Yeah, this is a joke. It's way too expensive and it doesn't have a keyboard." But what ended up happening was they found utility because they crowdsourced utility with the App Store. And so now anything you can dream of, somebody can develop it and you can do it on the iPhone overnight. This new technology just took hold. And we feel like as long as we can go after the right kind of utility for content with XR, the same thing will happen for technicians. And that's really what we're laser focused on. But if we can make it so that you can put on a headset and walk up to a device and be walked through how to do the PM procedure on it, well, now you're really moving the needle on this being a useful, and adoption follows. Adoption, it comes right after that, and it won't be long before it's just like, yeah, you can go to training, out in Waukesha, Wisconsin, if you want to, or you can just put on the headset.
Right.
So, and I'm, being
And it's,
hyperbolic a little bit, but
but in showing the value that is just as valuable. I think we learned something during COVID because a lot of biomed schools, CBET being one of them, was offering it virtually. And we still needed to train biomeds during COVID, but we couldn't have them in person. And that was a successful opportunity that we went through because I know my daughter went through it. She was one of those students, you know what I mean? So I saw it and I saw the training and I would hear it and see what she was learning. And I was so impressed by it. But through COVID, we learned how to get away from being all in one spot and that we could learn virtually just as quickly. So I think AR, VR, XR can be the same tool.
a million percent agree with that. And what I say is, look at what we learned with COVID. Before COVID, we knew what Zoom was. Like we had Google Meet, we had Zoom, we did that, periodically. During COVID, it really pressed us to adopt it. But now it's like even if you work at the same facility, but you're just on two different floors, you really have to justify to me why we need to, I need to get in the elevator and we need to be in the same room in order to meet. We just do everything on Zoom now because it's practical, it's cheaper, it's faster. The same paradigm shift is happening with training. And so we're getting to a point now where anything that you can do remotely, anything that you can do online, you need to, and budget constraints, and we will be forced to be doing training more remotely. So how do we make it effective? How do we make it, so that you're not leaving too much on the table and really save those in person? I don't think in person go away, but really save those in person experiences for laser focused, hands on type of experiences where you're doing things that you can't actually do in VR or AR, which I think even that is starting to become a smaller amount of things.
It is. I think that the one thing you'll never take out of it, though, is the human contact, the eye to eye, the shaking the hand, right? I think we just ingrainedly need that in our lives. Like that's something like we go to the conferences, you see it. There's always hugs and smiles and handshakes and high fives, and it's just different in person sometimes,
Oh, I absolutely agree with that, and that's actually one of the reasons why I really like the outlook of some of the new hardware and stuff that's coming out is because it it focuses more on that human connection where it can be, and I think that you're absolutely right. We're never gonna not we're social creatures, right? We work together, and so I think that that'll never go away. But wherever we can apply technology to make things faster and better and easier, that's on the table. That's what we're going to go try to do.
I love it. So I'm not an expert at all in AI, but it is like the elephant in the room. And it's crazy how it's being applied. And every day it seems like there's something new, good and bad, with AI, right? whether it be images or medical technologies, and how we're able to forecast, because of these thousands of patients who had this experience, we can predict this outcome, right? So how does AI play into what you guys are doing? Is there any crossover?
Absolutely. And as a matter of fact, I think AI is going to touch almost every aspect of our lives, professionally, personally, socially. Like there's so many things that AI will be a part of, just inherently. And I think that, specifically with applications that we're looking at, we want to take AI, what it's really good at, and apply it to the medical space device. So things that it's very good at are like outlining procedures, or if you use Chat GPT or generative AI, it's very good at like filling out work orders or those kinds of things. So we're building some tools that are hopefully going to help technicians. Simple things like instead of having to type in a serial number on a tag, you can just take a photo and AI can automatically read it. So those kind of applications, I feel like that's going to become more commonplace, and so we're building some tools for that. Eventually, I think the technicians will have Jarvis in on deck, whether it's your smartphone or AR glasses or whatever it is. You just be able to say, "Hey, Jarvis, help me with this PM procedure, or write down this flow rate so that I can put it in my documentation." And I definitely see a world where that becomes commonplace, and that's kind of the stuff we're working on too.
That's really cool, and it's simplifying it, right? I mean, if you think about a worksheet, right, for a PM that you have to go off an OEM checklist, sometimes they're hard to find. Sometimes they're hard to get, especially if you have a device that comes in that you don't normally have in your facility, and you need to do a repair. Like, how do you find that information? And time is of the essence in some cases. But yeah, I think that would be a way to simplify and have everybody on the same page doing the same thing.
Yeah. Anytime I talk to somebody about AI, I usually get two questions. And like the first one is it going to kill us? Right? Is this
Yeah,
Skynet?
right. Uh-huh.
And the
I
second
watched the
question is,
movie.
yeah, right. I and I don't think so. Not yet, anyways. We're so far away from AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, which is basically AI being as smart as a human or being able to reason across multiple different things so that it can be the equivalent of human intelligence. And then there's super intelligence, that's the Terminator, and that's when things get really weird. We're so far away from that. I'm actually more in the camp that I don't think that we'll actually achieve real AGI, but either way, I'm not afraid of it. I don't think that it's bad. I think that it can be useful. The other question we get all the time is like, "Oh, is it going to take my job?" And the answer to that is not anytime soon. I mean, if you use it right and you use it for what it's actually good at, then you'll get faster and better at your job. It won't replace you. It'll make you sharper. It'll make you quicker. It'll make you more effective. And we need that because, again, going back to the skills gap, going back to the labor shortage, we need our technicians to be better and faster and more effective at their jobs because there's fewer of them. So I definitely see it as an opportunity to lean into technology, use it where it's good. Don't don't avoid it. I think that if your organization is looking at it, then you're staying ahead of the curve. If you're not looking at it, you might want to.
Yeah, and then that's you see again if we got the generation gap and the skills gap. Um, the younger generation is more apt to look into this, use GPT, be involved in AI in some way, and then somebody that's much older might not be. So if you are that younger person in the shop and you find an exciting new idea, how do you bring it to your facility? Like, this is going to be a good idea. This could be great for us. I mean, new BMEDs are often intimidated to bring up
Yeah,
new ideas.
I think honestly, and I always tell people that number one, from a workflow standpoint, like yeah, you've got your certain procedures you have to do a certain way, but you have to come up with your way of doing workflows. And if you find a tool that is helpful, that's making you faster, again, going right back to utility. That's the driver of adoption. If you want the rest of your shop to look at something, well, just show them how much faster it's made you. And some, how much time you're saving by doing certain things or using whatever new technology tools, and not just AI. I mean, there's so many different platforms out there. If it's got utility, bring it up, because I think that that's the driver, and I think that that's a very easy business case to have. Um, and a lot of people are very scared about AI with data and all that, but what I'll say is, the GPTs and all the different models that are out there, Llama 3 and Jarvis and Claude, they're all trained off of all of the public data that's out there. 95% of data is still private. And so I think, there'll be an opportunity to keep things kind of air gapped and isolated to your facility, but still get all the benefits of using one of these LLMs to speed you up.
Do you believe that they should actually, I think with AI, trust but verify that it is the same, whatever they're looking up, to make sure that it is following their adopted guidelines?
You have to. I mean, it's not going to be perfect. Just the same way you would with any new technician or young technician, and somebody who's got the experience is going to have to double check their work. You have to do that with any kind of AI tools as well. You can't just take it at face value. But actually, that's funny. We had my partner Aaron. He's a CTO of the company. He was doing a session at the Amy exchange in Phoenix over the summer, and somebody raised their hand and was like, "Well, how do we know that AI is going to order the right parts? Like, what happens if they order the wrong parts, and then that it comes in and it was wrong?" And somebody else in the audience was like, "Oh, well, we do that all the time, anyways. That's not a big deal. It just has to be better than what we're already doing."
Yeah, that's true. And myself, when I use AI or a chat feature, sometimes it's not right, and I have to read it. And sometimes it's a lot better, right? And sometimes I read it, and I'm like, that is not the way I would have said it, right? And I want the audience, whoever I'm talking to still feel like they're communicating with Sherelle. So I'll go back and change things. But it is pretty cool to even use just that simple feature um, to communicate with others on a very easy level. It's if you want to tiptoe into it, just try one of those features and see what it does for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a big advocate. Of course, I am a techie. I'm in the early adopter camp on almost all the new technologies. But I definitely think that, where it's useful, that's where you lean in. Utility is going to be the driver no matter what the technology is.
So how do they get a hold of you, and what services do you offer? Are you open for questions? Give us all the details about your company and how you could benefit anyone out there, any facility out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. So if you want to find us, we're at nvrtlabs.com. We call it Invert Labs, but it's spelled NVRT Labs. And on the website, you'll see a handful of things that we're offering. We're going to end up doing a website rebuild here soon. But our primary product offering right now is the training platform, which is a subscription based access to our content library. We have about 20 different biomed procedures, everything from general biomed all the way up to some imaging content. But designed for new technicians to get a hands-on experience with devices that they may or may not otherwise see in their shop, just to give them their footing, give them their muscle memory, do some repetitions, get them into the roles, and then upskilling. And then we're actively adding more and more content to that content library over time, which is very exciting. Like I said, our content's starting to evolve. It's more multiplayer, it's more mixed reality. It's not just only a full immersion, independent training, but there'll be some new stuff coming as well. But that's our primary product offering right now. It's a we send you out a MetaQuest headset. It's got pre-configured turnkey. You don't have to set up anything, but you get the access to the platform. It's point and click your training, and it's for any health systems, ISOs. We've got a lot of educational institutions that are our clients, and then even OEMs. Outside of that, we also do custom XR development, and now we're leaning all the way in using some of our AI tools for creating workflow applications as sort of AI powered integrations. If you've got one system that doesn't talk to the other system, we can build a little workflow to make them
Wow.
talk.
Wow. So I gotta ask, how do you do these videos? Where's it come from? Like, who does it? Every time I see you and I see people picking stuff up, I'm gonna try it next time at the next conference. I'm gonna walk over there and do whatever you're doing. But where does that come from?
Yeah,
How
so
did
we
how
have
does
a
it get
really
how does it
we have a
get
really
done?
great
I'm
team.
curious.
We have a great team. I'm not the developer by any means. I'm just kind of watching them be as talented as they are. But our dev team is really lights out. So we do everything from the 3D modeling from the ground up. So if you've got a piece of equipment that we want to put into virtual, then we have to take photogrammetry scans of it. We have to make sure that we're getting all the subcomponents and then rebuilding that into 3D models. And then we take those 3D models and we put them into Unity. And I've got another team that does all the Unity development, which is a game engine, but we're using it for training applications. And basically, they're applying things like real world physics, certain scripts that make it interactable. So, like if you have a screwdriver, you can actually rotate your wrist, and that'll unscrew the screw. Those kind of things. Um, but yeah, that's all comes from the dev team. They're outstanding. We rely on them. They're incredibly talented.
That it's just amazing to me. I know there's a lot of gamers out there, so I know you've been doing this a long time. But I know I came from the first Atari that Pong was a big deal. So this is really interesting to somebody of my generation. That being said, if okay, a lot of the trainings, the biomeds have to go to a certified OEM training to be certified in that device. Could that be something in the future that you're able to partner with OEMs to do that training where the cost of sending someone to a school could be reduced greatly and we get more people trained efficiently?
That's exactly what we're working on, both with OEMs and third-party providers. We're a bit agnostic in that world, and I'm a big advocate of right to repair. So, I think that whoever has the training content, we're interested in working with them to make it remote or make it scalable, right? Make it cheaper for technicians to be able to go through that training. Um, as far as the Joint Commission and the DMV are concerned, they don't really differentiate between OEM trained and third party trained. Quality training is quality training. The only difference being some of the OEMs they'll hold back their certifications and say, well, you have to be certified by us. That's a whole dance that your organization has to do with the OEMs and whoever your equipment manufacturers are. But as far as making training accessible, remote, scalable, we're all over it. That is absolutely what we're trying to do and work with a bunch of different groups to do that.
Now, what if you're an organization, ISO, any large entity that needed to train a lot of people on a device that you have, but you don't have the recorded, I don't know, we call the session
Sure, yeah.
done yet? Would you create it? I don't know what it's
Yeah,
called. Sorry.
absolutely. So modules is kind of what we call them, and
Okay.
they're just learning experiences. But yeah, certain procedures we'll break them out into modules, and if it's a really long one, we'll do multiple modules around it. But if we don't have an experience that an organization is looking for, we do custom development. Likelihood is if one organization is asking for it, needs it, it's probably something across the board that everybody could benefit from. So we'll do a special, dev pricing for those kind of engagements because we want to bring it to everybody. But we do custom development all the time. We're working on a bunch of different procedures, and we just we have a long backlog of requests too that we're tackling as fast as we can.
That's awesome, though. Now, what if you're an individual person? Like right now, I want to learn how to PM a BD Care Fusion 8015. Could I contact you and learn that skill on my own and pay for a course?
So we have an opportunity to do some independent training, and I do think that that's a business model that we'll look into a little bit more. We do have the 8015, an output flow test on that one in our current content library. And so if that's the one you need, then it'd be super simple to get you out a headset and get you trained on that one.
I don't think I need to do it, Matt. I'm good
Hypothetically.
hypothetically, but I might try it sometime. I like to, immerse myself, and I like to get the experience behind it. So in the future, what are you looking for as far as expansion in this industry? Do you feel like it will be copied and I guess mass produced in a way where this is the new world?
Absolutely. And I think, what we're focused on is we want to build all that. So that big backlog of content that people are asking for, we got to go after that. We really do have to find ways to scale our development and do it faster and get more of this content out there because again, goes back to utility. If we've got a library of all these different experiences that people need for doing procedures, then we're meeting that need in the industry. And so yes, we're going to be this next year is going to be a big year for us. We're going to be building out a ton more independent learning modules, but we're also going to go after a lot more on the AR, actually doing the procedure live space. So not just using a headset, but maybe using your smartphone and looking at a device and saying, okay, I can tell this is a CareFusion 8015. I've got two 8100 pumps on either side, and I want to do a battery replacement. And you'll get an overlay in AR that kind of animates and shows you exactly what you have to do. Take out these screws, take off the battery pack, put on the battery pack, put back the screws, push these buttons. And so we're going to be building a lot more content like that as well this next year.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when is the next conference that you're doing this at? Where can someone come and find you? The next few things that are coming up?
Yeah, so I have been traveling a lot around quite a bit this year. It's finally starting to slow down a little bit, but I'm really excited to go to Lexington, the HTM mixer in Lexington in a couple weeks. And so I'll be doing a presentation there, and then we'll be running demos, and I'm really excited to see everyone. That one's gonna be great.
Yeah, and then next year, I bet your schedule's packed. They're gonna have to make another mat.
I know. It's gonna be a big year for us, and we're definitely gonna be out on the road and just taking us to as many people as we possibly can. And if you want to know if I'm gonna be in an event, if you want to see how you can get a demo, just shoot me an email or get in touch with me because likely will be in your area at some point in the near future.
Yeah, it'd be nice, especially if facilities. You're a hospital out there, and especially in Kentucky, Matt's going to be there. You might as well just sign him up and have him come and give you a demo right there in your biomed shop. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
perfect opportunity, right?
Perfect. Yeah, I would do that too. And
Yeah.
and we send out demo headsets all over the country too. So a lot of clients, they want to try it and they want to build some buy-in around the technology. So we're happy to send out demo headsets to accomplish those goals too.
Well, I'm trying to make it to Kentucky. I'm trying to make it to Lexington. As you know, I see you at most of these events, so packed schedules. If I get there, I'm definitely going to stop by and give this a try. Come maybe attend your class and your presentation. I'd love to see it, hands on. Um, but I've had such a joy interviewing you today, just because I'm I'm the curious cat, right? And I want to know more and I want to experience more. And I think there's a lot of people like me out there. So I've had a great time with having you on the show today, Matt. But I want to leave our viewers what they know is the wow, words of wisdom from Matt. Can you tell us what your wow is?
Absolutely. So I think in I'm a learning technologies guy by trade, like this, my background. I'm a big on education, big on learning. And so what I would say is never stop learning. And it doesn't matter if it's going back to school or if it's learning a new skill or if it's learning a new tool or a workflow. Never stop learning because you're always going to be growing. If you stop learning, then you stop growing. And I just think that, there's a quote by Mahatma Gandhi, and he said, uh, "Live as if you'll die tomorrow, but learn as if you'll live forever." And
Oh,
I
I
think
love that.
that sums it up for me.
I love that. Yep. And you're never too old to learn. You're never too old to try something new. You're never too old to reinvent yourself. I mean, this is your one chance at life. And if you're a BMET and you're curious about this, get curious now. Reach out to Matt. I know he's accessible. Follow him on LinkedIn. Check out their social platforms and stay in touch because I think over the next year, 2025 is going to be really big for y'all. And one time when I'm in Texas, I'm going to stop by and see it down there in San Antonio.
Come on,
All
we'll get you
right.
some barbecue.
Oh, love it. Love it. All right. Thank you for joining us again for another episode of HTM Insider. You could find this podcast any place you listen to your podcast. And it's also hosted on Tech Nation. So if you're a CBET and you're looking for those CE credits, every episode is 30 minutes and you get one CE credit every time you listen. So thanks again for tuning in. Matt, thanks for being a guest today. And go out there, be curious, and learn something new.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Matt.